Welcome, everybody, to the Fantasy Football War Room podcast. I'm your host, James, and with me, I've got Nick
Hey, how's it going, everybody?
and Chris.
Pronto.
We're a little short-handed tonight. It'll be a three-man crew for this episode. Gentlemen, how you guys doing?
Pretty good, pretty good. Can't complain. Missing football a little bit, but I'm glad we're still out here talking about different things.
Yeah, it was a blue Monday. It was a sad Sunday. I didn't know what to do with myself with all this free time. I wasn't sitting on the couch for 9 hours watching the TV, watching football. But I'm good, man. I'm good. I'm a little tired, but I'm good.
Yeah, no, it's good. I sat there on the couch still, but there was nothing to watch. I was sitting there flipping through channels. I'm like, this is what regular Sundays are like. It's not fun at all.
This is boring.
Yeah. But yeah, no, that's pretty much what happened. I mean, even in the football world, there wasn't much news or notes. A few things did happen. We found out the Philadelphia QB Jalen Hurts is expected to gather the wide receivers for the offseason workouts. That to me sounds like something that the starting QB would do, not the backup QB. So maybe that's a sign that Carson Wentz will move. On the Carson Wentz front, we haven't heard anything since the big news that he was going to be traded and it was going to be in a few days, and then it kind of just went cold. So hopefully that picks up soon, but I have no idea. Have you guys heard anything on that at all?
I heard there's some deadline in March 10th, I think it was, where he's due $10 million. So I think teams that are trading for him are going to kind of wait for that deadline to pass before they make a move. Otherwise, they'll end up being on the hook for that 10 schmil.
Oh,
That'll be interesting. Steelers center Marquis Pouncey retires after 11 seasons, and this has Big Ben a little shaken as he hoped that they would stay together for at least one more season. I saw a few tweets from Ben. He was really sad about the whole thing and whatnot. So I think he's more scared than anything else because now he's like, I'm going to get hit if we don't get a good center out there.
yeah, and he's already fragile as is, right?
Yeah, and it was heartbreaking. Now that you see that he retired and you watch the videos of the game, the aftermath of the playoffs there, where they were both sitting on the bench, and Ben was saying how upset he was he didn't get Pouncey another chip, and now it's all come full circle with Pouncey and his brother both retiring.
That's right. Yes.
It kind of makes it makes that situation that we saw on the bench a little more sad.
Yeah.
What else do we have here? So the Tampa Bay Bucks were obviously all over the news over the week just because they had their Super Bowl party from winning. Their boat party, I guess, is how you want to make of it. Did you guys see Tom Brady throw the Lombardi trophy from boat to boat?
I did. Did you hear that the granddaughter was like she couldn't sleep for
she
2
can't
nights?
sleep. She
Yeah,
can't
so
sleep
the
anymore.
granddaughter of the person who made the original Lombardi trophy was
She
going
wants an
crazy.
apology.
She's not getting an apology from
It's
Brady.
No, I
but-
don't think so.
ridiculous. Ridiculous.
But hey, I mean, Brady completed the pass, so that's a good thing.
He did.
Yeah.
He did. Actually, it was funny. They were talking to Chris Godwin about it, and he was on another boat, and he's watching it, and he was saying that I heard them screaming for the trophy, and I'm watching from afar, and I could see Tom almost like he was going to, but I didn't think he was going to, but then I thought he was going to, and I'm like, oh no, don't do it. So they're trying to rush over there to help just in case. And then he sees it get thrown, and he's just like, oh, thank goodness my guys can catch.
You even hear Tom's little daughter in the background just screaming, "Daddy, no! Daddy, no!"
Clearly, Tom had a few too many Gatorades that day.
Oh, yeah.
Well, as he said, a little avocado tequila.
Speaking of Tom Brady, he's set for minor knee surgery. They said nothing crazy, just some stuff to clean up in his knee, and he should be fine for training camp. Also, the Bucks GM claims that QB Blaine Gabbert could be the successor to Tom Brady in Tampa when he does retire. I don't believe that for 1 second, but if he wants to say that and come up, by all means.
Nah, definitely not gonna happen.
Also in Bucks news, the Bucks almost cut Super Bowl Lenny in Week 15. Did you guys hear about this?
I did hear about this story. Yes.
And he was very unhappy because in week 14 he was given an inactive status, and Coach Arians basically had to have a talk with him and say, listen, this is a special team, we're going places, we think we can do some things, and it's either you're with us or you're against us, and you can walk and we'll cut you. Now luckily he decided to stay with the team and turned into what he was, but what a crazy story. Had he been cut, could you imagine?
Definitely could have changed the playoffs. I mean, he had a big role in these playoffs this year. But yeah, that's a crazy scenario that could have come to be.
Yeah, it definitely would have changed his outlook, especially on his future now that he's becoming a free agent.
I'm hearing they want to bring him back, so we'll see. I don't know exactly where. I know the Bucks, they're trying to get everybody back, obviously, but I just don't see them having enough money to do that. Speaking of wanting to bring them all back, Shaq Barrett they actually asked him about his next contract, and his exact words were, "I think it's time for me to get paid." So if he's looking for big money now, that's a good indication that it doesn't look like he will be back with the team next year, unless they lose somewhere else, because I don't think they can afford everybody.
No,
definitely not.
The Raiders plan to release wide receiver Tyrell Williams, which should open up a lot of room for the rookies in their second year.
that's Nick's guy, Tyrell.
Yeah, I have him on my team. I got the news that he went on the IR. I put him up on trade block, which was hilarious. He sat on my IR, and now he's going to go to the waivers because, I mean, he's useless.
Yeah, and you'll see him in the CFL next season.
Yeah, pretty much.
Rookie QB prospect, who we will be talking about later today, Trevor Lawrence had his pro day early because he will be having surgery on his non-throwing shoulder. The pro day went really well. Everything went good. We'll talk a little bit about that too. And they're saying that the person who actually brought this up was Jags head coach Urban Meyer suggested that he should have this pro day early to show teams what he can do. A little interesting there.
Yep. Yeah, that shows you something about what Urban Meyer's plans may be.
And we had some sad news today out of Florida. Ex-NFL receiver Vincent Jackson was found dead in his hotel room. He was only 38. There's no reports of the cause of death at this time. Really sad there. He last played in the NFL in 2016. He was a pretty good wide receiver, played with San Diego and Tampa Bay. So really sucks for that. Rest in peace there, Vincent Jackson. And the biggest news of the week right now, the Houston Texans cut J.J. Watt. He basically had a conversation with the team and said to them, let's part ways. They both agreed, and he got cut. And now, he'll be probably one of the biggest free agents on the market. Gentlemen, where do you guys think J.J. Watt could end up?
I got J.J. Watt either going to Pittsburgh with his brothers, although I don't think that they're in a position to win a championship, and he's kind of chasing a championship. I think the Pittsburgh window's kind of almost closed, and if not Pittsburgh, there's been a lot of other suitors. There's been guys around the league just sending him texts and sliding in his DMs and stuff like that, but I could definitely see him back home in Wisconsin with the Green Bay Packers. I think he'd be a good fit in that system. He's a Wisconsin boy. I think he'll do damage over there in Green Bay.
I'm hoping he comes to the Cowboys. I mean, hey, I'm a biased fan, but I mean, seeing him paired with DeMarcus Lawrence, I think that would be an insane combination.
But he wants to win a championship, Nick.
Hey.
He's not going to go to Dallas.
Once the Cowboys settle their QB situation, which should be Dak, they will become contenders again. And then at which point, adding a him could be the piece to put us over.
There you go.
I don't know.
Changes everything.
I don't know.
End of day, I mean, J.J. Watt is going to be welcomed with open arms from any team in the NFL almost because of what type of player he is. So money wise and all that will come into play. But I mean, honestly, I agree. There's so many teams that are going to be looking for this guy now. He's such a valuable asset.
Yeah, a premier edge rush him, a guy player like him who probably should have been the MVP in 2012 and probably 2014. Yeah, there's pretty much almost the whole league, maybe except the Saints because they don't have the cap to sign a water boy. Should be going after this guy.
Those are expensive water boys that they have out there.
Oh man, it's bad in New Orleans, buddy.
Well, that's your news and rumors for this week here, or this segment. Let's head into our segment 2, which we're going to be talking about rookies, and we're going to be going through rookies for the next couple of segments while we go through here in episodes. So we're going to be bringing to you guys rookie QBs 1 to 6, who we've got in the 1 to 6 spots. So we're gonna break this down a little bit. We've got them in tiers. So tier 1 is obviously the QB1, the one that everybody knows about. He's going to be drafted first overall. They've been talking about him for a while. Tier 2 is QBs 2 to 6, and they could interchange based on how good or bad they are. I mean, we could have them in this order, but by draft, they could change 6 times. And then tier 3 is 7 to 10, or the rest, if you want to put it that way. So there's really no idea where these ones will end up, if they will be starters or whatnot, but we'll go into some of them just to give you guys an idea of who they are, just in case you come into your draft and you got a 3 or 4 round rookie drafts, or you're late in your draft, you're thinking you might want to draft somebody. At least you'll have some information on these guys. So let's start at tier 1 and the QB1, the guy that everybody's looking to get and the Jaguars are probably going to draft, Mr. Trevor Lawrence out of Clemson.
The man.
The man, yes. He stands at 6'6", 210 pounds. He was a Heisman vote in 2019. He finished 7th, and in 2020 he finished 2nd. He was 3 years at Clemson. In those 3 years, the first 2 years he did 15 games. Last year he only did 10 due to the fact that he had some COVID issues. A lot of people had COVID issues. All 3 years he threw for over 3,000 yards. All 3 years he didn't. Sorry, the first 2 years he had 30 and 36 touchdowns. In the year that he only had 10 games last year, he threw for 24. And so he finishes his career at Clemson with 10,098 yards. He finished with 90 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. Not bad.
Not too bad for the QB1 coming out of college, eh?
Definitely some big numbers.
Yeah, I mean, given the shortened season that he played last year, the number still throwing over 3,000 yards. His pass percentage went up every year, which is what you want to see out of the quarterback position. So that was good. He's still steady on his feet. He's got great size, excellent mobility, and he's got an arm that will make Henry Rowengartner jealous. So he's going to be a stud in Jacksonville with the new coaching regime. I think it's perfect setup for Urban Meyer. He's gonna raise not only his stock, he's gonna raise the stock of Shenault, Shark, and James Robinson. Everyone around him is only gonna go up. So I don't see much weaknesses when I was watching tape on Trevor Lawrence. The only one thing that I did see was that he does have a bit of a tendency to lock on a target here and there, but there's no issues with Trevor Lawrence. I hope for durability wise, he can put on a bit more mass going into the NFL. But other than that, ADP is 101 in rookie mocks, super flex, dynasty leagues. If you're in a single QB league, he's going around the 107, 108 mark. If you got the 101 and you need the quarterback, he's the guy.
Yeah, I totally agree. The only other downfall that I saw with Trevor Lawrence, and it's not even really a him problem, the plays that they ran mostly were play actions and screens. So that was a lot of his success in college were on those play actions and screens. So something of reading a few different deep plays, not deep plays, but different coverages is a little tendency thing. But again, with some different coaching in the NFL and different play calling, that's all going to change. And I think, I mean, the skill level, the mindset, and everything that he has, those shouldn't be an issue at all. And I agree with this new coaching regime, he's going to fit in and he's going to excel, I think, even more.
Yeah, I think with Meyer coming out of the college program,
Yeah,
Lawrence's ability to adjust to the NFL level is going to be a bit easier because Meyer's going to still have the tendencies of the college coach, right?
exactly. Yeah. So it leaves him a little more comfortable in a sense too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Now, just in case anyone, that's all great. I agree with all of you, but just some accolades that we could mention about him. So, he recorded one of the most celebrated careers by a college quarterback in college football history from 2018 to 2020. He led Clemson to a national championship as a true freshman in 2018, which is crazy enough as it is.
Yeah.
Uh, he
He's only
concluded
got
his
two losses.
career. Sorry?
He's only got two
I was
losses.
about to say that he concluded his career with a 34-2 record as a starter.
Yeah, it's nuts.
That's the third best percentage by a starting quarterback with at least 30 starts ever, which is insane.
Insane.
The two
Bah,
losses came at a
Crucial
bad spot,
points.
though.
Crucial points. But yeah,
But
that's
it's a team game. It's a team game.
it's true.
he exited as the winningest starting quarterback in Clemson history. Finished second in the 2020 Heisman Trophy voting, which was tying Deshaun Watson for the highest finish in school history. Set up records all over the place between passing percentage, yards, touchdowns, efficiency. He also rushed for 231 times for 943 career rushing yards and 18 rushing touchdowns. So he's got a little bit of mobility to him.
He's a big player, and his mobility is what gives him that dual threat option. And actually, if you watched college while he was playing, in scenarios where he does go through his progressions and sees that there's no option, he enjoys the run. He likes to actually run and somewhat get hit in a sense, which is what some commentators were saying is not very good. But I mean, him being that strength and that powerful and having the build that he has to run and still being agile with it, it's definitely a big threat.
Yeah, he finished his career undefeated as a starter in the regular season. Obviously, those two losses came in the playoffs. What else do I have here?
Sweet hair.
Yes, I mean he's probably got the
Sweet
best hair in all of
hair.
football.
He's got sweet lettuce. Yeah, I mean, all in all, I mean, he's great, man. I'd love to have him as a Saint.
His ideal role is
Not
going to be a
happening.
franchise quarterback. So if you're looking, this is the guy. Like Chris said, he's the number one. We've got him in his own tier by himself because he's the number one. Nobody close. So like we said, if you're on the board, Chris said in a 2 QB league 101, you're taking him, or a super flex, you're taking him. In a 1 QB, what do you got him at, Chris? 106,
I got
107?
106 to 107 range.
So what do you got him on as probably QB of the year with the other QBs? We're looking
Finish.
we're looking at probably 12 to 15 range, somewhere there. Is that what
Yeah,
you're thinking?
yeah, I'd give him that. I'd give him a top 15 finish.
Yeah, that's where I was guessing.
Oh. All right. Well, let's go into our tier 2. So these are QBs 2 to 6. Like we said, these could interchange depending on where they go in the draft and whatnot, who they get drafted to, who has a starting person already there and who doesn't. But we'll start with number 2, Justin Fields out of Ohio State. 6'3", 228-pound QB, Heisman voting. 2019, he finished third, and in 2020, he finished seventh. He did start his career at Georgia and then went to Ohio State. Didn't do much in that year against Georgia. I believe he was a backup, and he only had about 328 yards and 4 TDs. But then once he got to Ohio State and became the guy, in his first year there, he had 3,273 yards and 41 TDs. And then in the second year, which was last year, he only played 8 games, and in those 8 games, he had 2,100 yards and 22 TDs. So not a bad start from him. What do you guys think of Mr. Justin Fields?
I like him definitely as the next best quarterback in this draft class. Since high school and since seeing him move to Ohio and what he did at Ohio State, he's been up there as, he's not as elite as Trevor Lawrence. Don't get me wrong. Trevor Lawrence is by himself, like we said. But if there's going to be a quarterback that's as close to Trevor Lawrence in this draft, I think it's Justin Fields. His size, his mobility, his arm accuracy, the intelligence he has with the gameplay. I think all those traits and that athleticism in itself bring him as one of the elite type of quarterbacks in this draft. Um, and like you said, yeah, that first year coming into Ohio, he was breaking crazy records. This year, he was a little more iffy in a sense, but he still had, he still increased his completion rate with from 67% to 70%.
Solid 70.
Um, exactly. And sure, there's the odd times where he's making a few mistakes and he's scrambling a little too much, trying to create new plays because his checkdowns aren't working and his progressions are he has to take them away. But um, if he just changes that up a little bit in a little more developmental state of a team, I think he could definitely succeed in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree. All great points, Nick. I see Justin Fields coming in as the second ranked fantasy QB in the field. One thing Fields doesn't lack is arm strength and accuracy. The dude can hum it in there on a dime. You don't got to worry about that. In 2019, if it wasn't for Joey Burrow's historic year, he probably would have won the Heisman. He threw for 3,200 yards, 41 TDs. He rushed for 484 and 10 TDs. So he's got the mobility. A lot of people compare him to Russell Wilson coming in. I don't see it so much as a Russell comparison. I see it more of a Lamar Jackson that can throw. So I like Justin Fields. I'm seeing a lot of the expert mocks. They see Justin Fields as the second or maybe third QB taken in the NFL draft this year, which I think is crazy. He had a bit of a down year this year, but he only played 8 games. They beat Clemson. They went to the championship. He played decent against Alabama, but that game versus Clemson, he threw for what was it, 6 TDs,
Yep. 6
four
TDs, 385 yards.
80. Yeah, exactly. So I'm pretty sure he had like broken ribs or something that game. So
Yeah, he got crunched and he still stayed in the game. It was nuts.
yeah, the guy's a gamer, the guy's a baller, but like Nick says, a lot of these guys in this back end of our rankings here, it really depends on where they land.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
Definitely
no,
a more developmental type of player in the sense of not making those mistakes that he's been known to make right now, but definitely it all depends where he goes.
Yeah.
yeah, no, I got him. I think he's a franchise quarterback still. I think whichever team does take him, he will. If he doesn't become the starter day one, he definitely will be the starter, possibly in year two or halfway through the season, kind of like they do right now. If we're drafting him, Chris, Nick, I think we're looking. I mean, he's obviously not as high as Mr. Lawrence there, and depending on which team he goes to, will also change that. But I mean, if Lawrence goes one and this guy's number two, in a super flex, we're still saying 1.02, and in a one QB, you're probably taking him a little bit later, maybe early round two at this point, or are you still taking him at the end of round one in a
Yeah,
one QB?
in a one QB league, if I need the quarterback, which most likely in a one QB league you're not at the need at the position, I see him as an early second, and in a super flex rookie, 1.2 to 1.4, really depending on team need at that point.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
all the mocks are looking like he's either going to the Jets, Atlanta, possibly the Lions. If he goes to one of those three teams, fantasy value, are we looking probably late teens, early 20s, something there?
I think if he goes to Atlanta and their type of scheme it's a good fit for him with those wide receivers there. So that I could see him in a higher teen area, like oh sorry, yeah, 15 and down probably. Um, if he goes to the Jets, it'll obviously be a little tougher, but in that scenario in fantasy, I mean the Jets are not very good, so he'll be throwing a lot, trying to come back in games. So yeah, I think right around the 15 to 20 area definitely is where he probably will land in fantasy wise.
Yeah, I don't want him to go to Atlanta as a fantasy owner if I'm drafting him early, because then he might be sitting unless they move Ryan, then he might
Yeah.
be sitting for a bit, right? So I think if he goes to Atlanta and Atlanta doesn't move from Matt Ryan, then his draft stock in rookie drafts kind of drops him a bit, because
Mhm.
he is going to sit for that little bit. If you need that instant help at the quarterback position, he might not be the way to go. And one of these later guys here that we're going to talk about might be better suited for your team.
Yeah, that's true.
All right. So number 3 on our list, Zach Wilson, quarterback from BYU, 6'3", 210 pounds. Heisman voting last year, he finished 8th overall. He put up some pretty good numbers in his 3 years at BYU. He started off only playing 9 games in the first 2 years. Every year progressed with his yards, went 1,500, 2,300, 3,600. And his TDs, he went 12 TDs in year 1, 11 in year 2, and 33 in year 3. The crazy part is in year 3, it was only 3 game difference, and he put up that many extra yards and that many extra touchdowns. So he had a crazy year last year. Gentlemen, what do you guys have on Zach Wilson?
Coming into the draft, I personally have Zach Wilson ranked as the number 5 QB coming in. I have him just behind a couple of other guys. A couple of the big things I took away from Zach Wilson this year was his completion percentage. In 2019, it sat at 62.4. And then this year, he had a big 11% jump and he went to 73.5, which is huge. You want in the NFL, you want your quarterback to be accurate. That means he's making good decisions. He's going through his progressions. He's reading the field properly. His yards per attempt went up from 7.5 to 11. He threw 33 TDs and he threw 3 touchdowns, which is great. Which it's all the numbers you want to see for a quarterback coming into the league. There is no area of the field that is really inaccessible with Wilson. His elite arm talent is his immediate strength. He's a playmaker, and his mobility helps him with that. Projected by some guys to be the second QB taken off the board in the NFL draft. When I was watching Wilson, I noticed that he lacks a bit of the anticipation. And when he sits in the pocket, his feet work can get a little bit lazy, which sometimes leads to poor throws, either overthrows or underthrows and stuff like that. So in rookie mocks, super flex, I think he's going in about the first 7 picks. So I have Zach Wilson ranked pretty high, but he's not one of my top targets coming into the year.
Yeah, I'm with you there. I mean, I have him a little higher just on potential of where he could land and the amount of points he gets. Like for example, if he goes number 2 overall to the Jets, he's pretty much looking at a starting role in a sense, because I don't think the Jets really trust Sam Darnold anymore.
Yeah, but look what the last starting quarterback did in the Jets. So
Yeah, for
is
sure.
that a good thing for Wilson if he ends up in the Jets?
I'm not. Well, it's not necessarily a good thing, but I mean, he's getting in that role right away, and I mean, with the new coaches, we'll have to see what happens. I mean, there's no Adam Gase there anymore, right? So, actually, though, while I was looking up Zach Wilson a little bit, I found an interesting take here. So it's actually been rumored that his attitude is actually really bad. He's a rich kid that is very entitled and very selfish. So his uncle actually owns JetBlue, and a lot of teams are saying that this attitude is actually going to cause a more problem for NFL teams that are trying to draft him, because what's going to happen is they see this, he's not very good with the locker rooms and everything like that. So that's a little key aspect that they look for in a sense in these rookies. Um, but they did say that because of how smart he is and mentally through his football aspects of the plays and all that stuff and recalling things, that he's going to interview really well. So that's where his stake brings him back up in the draft, and that's why he's going to get drafted very high. But it was just really interesting seeing how this attitude adjustment type thing is going to cause such a difference in variation depending on the teams. So, like, for example, some teams have him going as the number 2 overall pick, where some have him as more of a round 2 draft pick quarterback because of these issues that they've seen. So I thought that was quite interesting to see as well. But as for player wise, yeah, he's got the skill, the talent, the dual threat in the running, in extending plays. But is it a 1-year type thing? I mean, what we saw this year, this was his biggest year that he's had. And is he really this guy throughout, or was it this year that made him
Is
that?
it an outlier? Yeah. He reminds me so much of Baker Mayfield, man.
Yeah, exactly. In that same scenario there.
So, since you guys pretty much said everything that I could have possibly said, a few things that I was able to take out of that you didn't say was he does have a little bit of some past injury history. He has a labrum tear in his throwing shoulder, which raises some red flags that he has recovered from. And he's dealt with some hand injuries in 2020. So that could be something that it could affect his draft stock depending. And then some side bits about him. He has 3 nicknames. He has Zach the Ripper, Mormon Manziel, because they compared him to Manziel
Let's
when
go.
when he wasn't doing so great, but he was
Oh,
okay.
man.
And now, because of how good his last year was, they've called him Mormon Mahomes. So take what you want from that, but he is a first round pick, and I think he will be probably within the top. I mean, I think he'll be one of the top 3 QBs taken, anyways, depending. But and a lot of mocks have him going to the Jets, unless someone trades up to go get him, such as a Carolina, such as something else. So that could be in the works too. But there's a good chance he goes at that number 2 spot ahead of Justin Fields, which is interesting to see as well. So our number 4 QB, Trey Lance, out of North Dakota State. 6'4", 226 pounds. He only played 2 years at North Dakota. His first season, he played in 2 games, and he only had 100 yards, 12 yards, 0 TDs. And then last year, he played in 16 games. He threw for 2,700 yards and 28 touchdowns. What do you guys got on Mr. Trey Lance?
So that was actually in 2019 that he did that, because the 2020 season that they just had, he played 1 game due to the COVID stuff there. In that 1 game, he still threw 150 yards and 1 TD. But the biggest thing I think that came out of that game was he ran for 150 yards and 2 TDs. So again, this quarterback coming in is basically, a lot of people are saying he's a smaller Josh Allen. He has the dual threat of having a crazy arm with crazy accuracy, good feet, and he also has that mobility in him that he can run and be elusive as a runner. And if he's in space, he just breaks tackle. He's dynamic in space. So all those things come into play that make him one of those top QB. Another big thing with him, he's got the skill traits, he's got athleticism, the mentality. Really, he's got the whole package in a sense of what teams are looking for in a QB, in a franchise QB at least. And I think definitely he could be. But again, due to what we saw this year with COVID and him not being able to play, we're really ranking him based on his 2019 performance, because before that, as you said, he didn't really play much for, I believe it was North Dakota, right? So that's again where we're at. But as much as what we saw from him, it all looked pretty decent and pretty much what teams are looking for in a quarterback.
Yeah, I agree with all that, Nick. 6'4", 226 pounds. He's a physical dude, but I think one of the biggest things that I noticed with Trey Lance is that his ball security is second to none. He threw it in 2019 287 times. He threw 28 touchdowns and 0 interceptions, which is huge, especially for a mobile quarterback who's going to roll out and extend the plays, to be able to have that ball security and that vision to know where to throw, when to throw, and that accuracy. That's what you want in a franchise QB. The next guys that we have here from 4, 5, and 6, these next 3 guys, I think, are all going to benefit from landing in a beneficial spot, a beneficial situation. Trey Lance's ADP right now in rookie mocks, super flex. I think they got him going in the first round based on where he lands and team need, of course. But I can see Trey Lance being a fantasy asset from here until retirement.
Yeah, no, it all depends. I mean, if he goes to Atlanta, I think a year off might actually be good for him. I think being behind a quarterback to kind of see how things go first. He's one of those guys where I wouldn't mind that happening because I think he'll only benefit from that. The only thing that does scare me is North Dakota State. The last QB that was drafted high from North Dakota State is not doing so well right now. If you look at things, that's Mr. Carson Wentz. So and him not playing last year is another thing. You're basically, like Nick said, you're going on his 2019 stats only. So yeah, they were great, 0 interceptions, like you said, and he threw almost 70%. So it was good, but being off for a whole year and then going right into it in the NFL, I think a year of molding under a quarterback, maybe in Atlanta under Matt Ryan, would be something amazing for this kid that could turn him into that. But yeah, if unless he lands on a team where he's the starter, I mean, you're only taking him probably in rookie drafts or as super flexes to sit on your bench for the year. You're probably not going to get much out of him in a 1 QB or a redraft. So definitely watch to see where he gets drafted, and you might be a hold for 2022 in fantasy outlook. But we'll have to take a look at that.
Yeah, I mean, I would love to see him run that offense that they ran in New England this year with Cam Newton. I would love to see Trey Lance in that situation. I think he would ball out.
Yeah, no, I think you would too, but I think our next candidate that we're talking about would look a little better there. With our number 5, we've got out of the University of Alabama, Mack Jones, 6'3", 214 pounds. Heisman voting, he was third this year. He played all 3 years at Alabama. He was behind certain people, so he had to wait to get his turn. And when he finally did, he definitely put on a performance. His first 2 seasons, like I said, being behind Tua and
Jalen Hurts.
Jalen Hurts. Thank you. He only played 6 games in the first season, 11 games in the second, and he finally got 13 last year. And it was only 123 yards in the first and a touchdown. So pretty much it was only in backup roles or late in games. And then in his second year, he had 1,500 yards and 14 TDs. And then this last season just totally went off for 4,500 yards, 41 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Gentlemen, what do you guys got on Mack Jones?
Wow, Mack Jones, 6'3", 214 pounds. A year ago, James and I were involved in a Devy draft. We were partners on a team, co-GMs. He had brought up a name, Mack Jones. I said, I pretty much told him to beat it. I've never heard of the guy. He's not going to be any good. So we took Bo Nix instead. And then,
well, I think your exact words were, "Who the heck is that?"
yeah, is he related to Jerry Jones? Is that why you want me to pick him? But every game versus Alabama, I was just shooting myself in the foot. 4,500 yards, 77%. One of the big things with Jones was his accuracy this year and his pocket drifting skills, which are important tools for a QB to have in his toolbox. Mac Jones displayed uh, the passes this year to Devonta Smith. I mean, he made Devonta Smith a Heisman winner pretty much. I don't think Devonta Smith has the build to be a good wide receiver in the NFL, but we'll leave that for another week. He does lack a little bit of playmaking ability, which kind of made me see it as a scheme fit kind of thing in Alabama, as we saw the prior Alabama quarterbacks in the NFL not really transition that well. Um, he's only got about 11.3% of his passes came out of the pocket, which if you compare it to Justin Fields, who had 21.5% of his passes coming out of the pocket, that's just that comparison right there is just letting you know that Justin Fields' playmaking ability and his ability to extend the play is much greater than Mac Jones, who kind of just did what was asked of him, chuck the ball up there, 4,500 yards, no big deal. I think Mac Jones this year in Superflex, look, most QB classes, you got 2 to 3 maybe quarterbacks that you're drafting in dynasty drafts in the first round. This year, you could have the possibility of 4 to 6, 4 to 5. Just these guys coming out are studs. So I got him tied to Washington and New England for me. So if he lands in any one of those spots, I think it boosts his ADP in dynasty drafts most definitely.
Yeah, I think a New England would be the perfect landing spot for him because he doesn't necessarily as like what I saw and what I read in a few of these scouting reports is that he doesn't possess the elite arm that NFL quarterbacks have. He has a good arm, but it's not that elite caliber arm that we can see in those other top quarterbacks like Fields, like Lawrence, like what we've seen in the NFL. So in that scenario, when you look at teams who run a good scheme with that type of a quarterback, you're at the New England team who's running short passes to intermediate passes, and that's where he's thriving because he's fitting it through those windows as being an accurate quarterback, as we see with the 77% completion, and he's throwing it in scenarios where the wide receiver can then go and make yards after the catch. And that's where he excelled. If you watched his games in Alabama, he threw short yardage, he threw intermediate yardage, and he let his wide receivers basically get those yards for him and, produce on the field and get those yards after. So that's where I kind of saw a Mac Jones. Another interesting thing that I found was that the scouting report had talked to 5 NFL teams about the draft. So 3 of the teams out of the 5 saw him as a 4th round quarterback being drafted, which is somewhat lowish in an NFL draft of what we're seeing with these quarterbacks. And then 2 of them saw him in the 2nd or 3rd round. So I mean, it gives you that type of differentiality and seeing where he could technically go. I do agree. I think with what he did this season, he's a definite fit for one of those types of teams there, and they will draft him at a higher area than, the 4th round. I don't think he'll drop that low. But another funny thing is the comparisons of who they said Mac Jones could be in the NFL. So one of them is he's a stronger armed Jake Fromm. So that's pretty funny. Another one is he's a shorter AJ McCarron.
These are good comparisons.
Yeah. And then the last one was if he does develop properly and fix some of those things that he needs to fix, he could be the next potential Kirk Cousins. So that's kind of where you're looking at what a Mac Jones is going to be, and I think that's pretty much dead on almost in what I saw.
Yeah, I like that Cousins take.
Yeah, I hope he's better than those first 2, because if he's those 2, then he's going to be a backup for the rest of his career, and nobody wants to see that. So, I think New England's the best spot. Like you said, Nick, they were saying that his scheme fit is a quick rhythm-based throws with the periodic deep shots, and that clearly to me is Belichick and that New England team. So if they can get the receivers there this year, which they're looking to build on, and you bring in someone like a Mac Jones, he'll definitely have more than Cam Newton's touchdowns from last season. So what was that, Chris? 8?
Yeah, 8
Yeah,
touchdowns.
so I think he could beat that. So, and our last quarterback, again, this order could go any way, but we got him at 6 right now. I know Chris has him a little higher than we do and wasn't happy with the number 6 spot, but out of Florida, Kyle Trask, and 6'5", 240 pounds. His Heisman voting this year, he finished 4th overall. This guy was he balled out this year. His 3 years at Florida, his first year he only played 3 games, 162 yards and a touchdown. His second year he got an all 12 and he threw for 2,941 yards and 25 touchdowns, 7 interceptions. And this year at Florida, again 12 games, he threw for 4,283 yards and 43 touchdowns to 8 interceptions. He definitely balled out. Guys, what do you have on Mr. Trask?
I got you guys straight disrespecting my boy. I got Kyle Trask at my personal rankings. Oh, when it's all said and done, when the dust clears and it comes time and another doctor stabs another starting quarterback in the lung with a syringe, Kyle Trask he's gonna end up being, I think, one of the top fantasy QBs coming into the year. The only thing, I mean, his landing spot's not going to be very good for him at the beginning of the year. He's probably going to come in and sit behind someone. He's going to hold a clipboard. But if I'm drafting in the third, like I'll pick him in the third, late second, just to jump up. I'll jump up and take him if I have the opportunity. Um, every year he's gotten better. It's a positive regression every year. He went from 2018, 63% throwing percentage, 2019, 66%, and then this year he finished with 68%. In the 27 games he's played in Florida, he's thrown 7,300 yards, 69 TDs, 15 interceptions. He's got good arm strength, and he can throw the deep ball. Just like Herbert was deemed a raw talent coming in, Trask kind of fits almost the same exact profile. Herbert was touted to be a top 5 pick in the NFL, and right now I think Trask is projected to go day 2. Day 2, I think it was for Kyle Trask there. His ability to scan the field and keep his eyes down the field, I think, will ultimately make him one of the top QB prospects coming out of the class. And like I said, between Mack Jones, Trey Lance, and Kyle Trask, having these guys being drafted into these teams that aren't so QB needy, where these guys can sit for a bit and learn the ins and outs of a playbook, learn the ins and outs of the NFL. I think all 3 of these bottom guys, maybe not Jones so much, but Lance and Trask, I think at the end of it are going to be top fantasy QB assets.
So I have a question for both of you guys now. Then, do you
No.
think that
What's the next one, Jay?
do you think that Kyle Trask actually really did produce because of what type of quarterback he is, or because of what he had in front of him? I mean, if you look at the wide receivers, the tight end, the O-line that he had in front of him this year with those numbers, do you think it's more of what he had over him actually being that elite type of quarterback that will grow into that? Or do you think it was more of just basically the team and what he had in front of him and the pieces?
Well, a lot of football is the sum of all parts, right? So, do I think he's a product of his environment? Yes and no. He did lose some of the pieces that he had in 2019 moving into 2020, and he only got better. I think put into the right situation in the NFL, he's going to be a stud. I don't know what James thinks. I know he thinks Kyle Pitts was a big part of Kyle Trask's success, but I want to hear his take on it.
Yeah, no, I think Nick, that is part of it. So one of the recruits said that similar to his surroundings in college, in order for him to reach or see his full potential, he'll need to have an adequate play caller, protection, and playmakers around him. So I mean, yes, he put up great numbers. I saw it. He did really well. I mean, there were games there that he was just balling out. Yes, I think that the players around him is what he did, but at the end of the day, he still did that. Is he a good quarterback? Yes, that's why he's in our top six. Do I think coming out of the gate week one, if he were to be put on, say, the Jets and be their starter, would he be a guy that can go out there and help you win fantasy right now? No, I don't. I think he needs a year under somebody, maybe 2 years under somebody, just to kind of learn the ropes and get better and grow and develop a little bit more. I know he does have a big arm, but they were saying that the strength in his lower body is not there yet. He needs to develop the lower body a little bit better so that he can make those throws a little bit better deep. So it's a little bit of things that he needs some conditioning and some training there. He's in our top six, so he's still a legitimate asset, like Chris said. And I think on a team maybe at Pittsburgh where he can learn from Big Ben for a year, or something like that where he can learn for a year or two, I think would benefit him dearly. And then yes, I think then he would become someone. I don't think if the doctor punctured the starting quarterback's lung in the first 3 games would he be able to come out and be Justin Herbert. But we'll
I
have
like
to see about
I
that.
like that Pittsburgh take. I like that landing spot right there. I never thought about that one, but I like that.
Yeah, I saw him on a few things where he could be going to Pittsburgh, so it could be interesting to see.
I
So
heard a potential Colts landing spot as well.
the Colts are potentially linked to every single quarterback in the NFL at this
This
point.
is correct.
Maybe
But I
someone
mean-
wants to retire in a year.
This is very true.
Well, anyways, that is our show. We've hit 1 to 6. I hope that information helps you when it comes down to the drafting for next year and whatnot. And don't worry, we will be re-mentioning these names and giving you more stats as we get closer to the rookie draft. But for now, thank you for listening. Please follow us on Instagram at The Fantasy Football War Room, and tune in for our next episode, which will drop on Thursday, when we talk about rookie QB 7 to 10 and some honorable mentions that we didn't mention here. Have yourselves a good night.
Ciao.